Hi everyone, it's me. I was trying to shoot the video a different way, but it wasn't working. So I'm just going to move forward, and the camera's really shaky tonight, so I hope this all works out okay. All right, so I be right back. I posted a picture of what we're making today, and this is just really bad lighting, everything. Nothing's working right tonight. All right, so I posted a picture of what we were making today, and I have these cute little boxes. They're little boxes for your recipe cards. So we're going to make these cute little boxes with a little button closure, and then I made these little recipe cards to go in it, so I'll show you how I did it. Alrighty, so let me turn the camera down. Alright, so we're going to be using Don't Stop Believing stamp from Stampin' Up, and I'm going to be using Pool Party, the color for the stamp, and we're going to be using the little snowman and the cute little saying, a little sentiment that's going to go on the front of the box. And I'm using two of the really pretty snowflake papers from Stampin' Up, and I'm going to use this side for the outside of the box because I just thought it was so pretty. All right, so it's just over 12 inches that you need, but because of the way that you have to lay down your chipboard, I'm joining two 12 by 12 sheets of paper together. I'm not going to throw out any of the scraps. All of the scraps are going to be used instead of getting out another 12 by 12 sheet paper. So we're going to utilize as much of this as possible. So I've already pre-cut the decorative paper and the white cardstock for the cards. The decorative paper is 3 1/4 by 5 1/8. And then the white cardstock, I cut it 3 by 4 7/8. You can also use 3 by 5 index cards if you want to use those to write your recipes on. I just thought this looked a little bit more decorative, so we're going to do it with the decorative papers. And then, of course, we've got our two 12 by 12s. We're going to need some dimensionals, my double-sided tape, my art glitter glue, and then I'm going to try to do it again. It worked really well. I'm going to show you how to block out part of the stamp and just use a section of the stamp without messing up what you're doing. So for that, I just have some regular Scotch tape, my little hole pokies, and then this is the punch for the stamp punch from Stampin' Up. And then, of course, we've got our cardstock, and then little rubber band and some flat back pearls for feet. So our chipboard, we're going to need two pieces that measure 1 1/2 inches by 3 1/2 inches. These are going to be the sides. And then to make the box, we're going to need two pieces of 1 1/2 by 5 1/2 chipboard, one piece of 1 inch by 5 1/2 chipboard, and two pieces of 3 1/2 by 5 1/2 chipboard. So I've already put the double-sided tape on the back so that you didn't have to sit there and watch me do that. Sometimes I know some of the things I do is like watching paint dry, literally. And what we're going to do is use my 1/4 inch double-sided tape to join the two 12 by 12 sheets of decorative cardstock together. So I'm just going to clear some room here on the table. And we're going to place, now I love using the grids, especially to keep things straight. So what we're going to do first, to do the double-sided tape, we're just going to get that run down one side of the 12 by 12. And you can use the wet glue, but I like using the double-sided tape better for this. It just, to me, it's just easier to do than the wet glue. All right, and we all know how hard it is for me to get the backing off that, so I always have to have my tool to do that. All right, now what I like to do is I line it up perfectly even on my grid, and then I take the bottom corner and I just want to move it up. I make sure that I have a clear mark for where the tape starts so that I can make sure that the bottom corners match up, because I don't want any of this tape hanging out. All right, so I'm gonna match up my bottom corner, and then I just make sure this is nice and straight across as well, and then it's automatically lined up. See how easy that was? Because you know, with the double-sided tape, you really don't get a second chance with anything. Once in a while, I've been very lucky when I have messed it up to be able to work it off there, but more times than not, you end up losing the paper. And the decorative cardstock from Stampin' Up!, the texture is so much nicer. However, it is a little bit more expensive. Not that much. I mean, for what you're getting, it's not a bad price at all. So we've got the two 12 by 12 sheets joined together. Now I'm going to show you how I lay it out, and I want to make sure that the bottom of the box is where I've joined the two 12 by 12 pieces together. So the bottom of the box is measuring 1.5 by 5.5. So that's going to go right on the seam. And then we're just going to place it on the paper like that. Now you see all this extra is going to get used. However, it didn't make sense to start at one end and work your way up and then the seam be in the front of the box. So this way, you're still going to have all of the paper that you need to make the box. You're going to be able to hide that seam, and it's going to come out really cute. All right, so let's start with this bottom piece here. All right, let's get our backing off our tape. The other little trick that I like to do when I'm placing my chipboard, I've got this nice metal ruler that's got cork on the back so it keeps it from sliding. And you usually want to leave at least a nice inch around your chipboard to fold your cardstock over. So I line the ruler up there, and I use that as my guide when I'm laying down my chipboard. So here's our seam. We're going to put that right in the middle of this bottom piece of chipboard. This is 1.5 by 5.5. All right, and then we just work our way out from there. So our next piece of chipboard is measuring 3.5 by 5.5. I'm going to get the back of the tape off here. I always have a hard time doing it. Some of these ladies, I watch their YouTube videos and their instructional videos. Man, they can zip that tape right off there. Now, I haven't had nails on since the pandemic started, so with nails I couldn't do it. Without nails I can't do it. So I have no idea how they're able to just zip that tape right off there. Now you want to leave yourself about 1/8 of an inch in between your pieces of chipboard. So I've got my my ruler lined up on a mark where I can tell exactly where 1/8 of an inch is. So I'm gonna put my chipboard right up against the ruler with that 1/8 of an inch in between there. Now I moved it, it's sticking to my hand. Okay, I like to keep it lined up because when it's nice and straight, you just have a much better project. Just looks much better. All right, so we want 1/8 of an inch there. All right, there we go. And I use my bone folder to kind of press it down. Okay, get this one off here. again, 1/8 of an inch. I'm gonna move my ruler over just a little bit so I have a nice mark so I can tell exactly where 1/8 of an inch is. Just 2 more papers or chipboards. All right, now this is going to be the top of the box. And the top is the same as the bottom, measuring 1.5 by 5.5. Moving my ruler so I can get my 1/8 of an inch there. Okay, and then this is going to be the little front of the box, the little flap that comes down, see there on the lid, and that's where we're going to put our little button so that we can put our little rubber band over it so that it stays closed. All right, so let's get the back off the double-sided tape here. And again, 1/8 of an inch. All right, so that's all down. Let me clear off all this trash. Get that in the trash can. Like to keep a neat workspace. All right, now I'm gonna make sure that it's all pressed down nice and snug. And then we're gonna take our finger blade and we're gonna trim around. Now, remember I said we wanna keep about 1 inch all the way around our chipboard because we wanna have plenty to fold over. All right. Now, this piece here at this end is what our liner paper is going to be on the inside of that. So you're going to have plenty here. So when you cut your inch around there, you're going to have plenty left over for your liner. Then this top piece here, this is what we're going to cover our sides with. Trying to use the markings on my grid so that I can make sure that I'm giving myself 1 inch and still leaving myself plenty because like I said, we're not wasting any of this paper. We want to be able to use it to finish our project. All right. Now this section here, I really didn't need to use, so you can use that to make embellishments or whatever to decorate the front of your box. I put a little sentiment on the front of my box, so I'll show you how to do that afterwards. All right, so now that we've got our chipboard down, we've got our decorative paper trimmed, we're just gonna fold over our sides so that we know where our corners are going to be, and then we're going to miter cut our corners. And this is a technique that's inspired by Sherry, the Paper Posh Lady. Again, I always want to give her a shout out because she's very inspirational in a lot of the things that I do. She's got great teaching techniques as far as paper crafts go, and I've learned so much by watching her videos. All right, so we've got our corners cut off here. That way, when you fold your paper over, you don't have a lot of bulk here in the corners. Now, what I'm going to do is use my 1 inch double-sided tape to put along the edges here. And I use my bone folder to kind of give myself that little rip. Makes it easier to tear the tape. And then I try to match the angles so that the tape kind of matches, it runs the same way as the paper. Well, this is a little awkward. I'm going kind of backwards to how I usually do it. There we go, that worked. All right. And then we peel our double-sided tape off. Whenever I'm making boxes like this and I'm working with the long, larger ends, I like to put my longer ends down first. Just a preference. There's no right or wrong way that I've seen. I just prefer doing it this way. So let's get the top down. Make sure it's nice and even. You don't want it coming up off the sides there. And the double-sided tape, I don't know if you can see this, but see where it's hanging over there? If you just fold it down, it neatens it right up. Use your bone folder to press that down. Make sure it's stuck, adhered really well to your chipboard. And then after I get the long sides down, then I do my shorter ends. And again, see here where this tape's hanging up, all you do is fold it back and it cleans it right up. Now, if you weren't going to use the little rubber band and button to close this with, this is when you would have put your magnets on under here. If you were going to use magnets, you can use Velcro if you want. But this is where you would have put your first set of magnets in. But we're not using the magnets today. Wanted to do something a little bit different. Not to mention you get a little bit of spacing with the magnets, so I kind of wanted to make sure that this was a little bit tighter. All right, so we've got this all pressed down, and then I like to take my bone folder and go around the edge to kind of flatten it out and round the corners down. But if you take your bone folder and kind of press along the edges, it makes them nice and flat and gives it that finished boxy look. All right. And then we're going to take this nice big piece that was left, and since we used the wrong side, I really wanted to use this side for the outside, but since I did it backwards and I used this for the outside, I'm going to use this for the inside because I just think this is so pretty with the purple and everything. But this isn't hard on the eyes either. The Stampin' Up! Really has beautiful designer series paper. All right, so this measures 11.5 by 5.5. So let's make this 11.25 by 5.25. So we're going to take our paper trimmer. 11.25 means we need to cut off 3/4 of an inch because we know that this is 12 inches long. I just want to see here. Okay. All right. So 3/4 of an inch would be right there. Trim that off. And I'm just going to double check and make sure. Yep, that's going to fit perfect. And then 5.25. Trim that. Okay, move that over there. I just want to make sure this is going to fit perfectly, and it gives us just 1/4 of an inch border around there. So what I'm going to do is take my 2-inch double-sided tape and I'm going to lay down 4 inches on here. And see how I lay the bone folder there and then I just pull the tape? It gives you a perfect tear there. Just makes life so much simpler. All the little techniques that I've learned. All right, so we're gonna peel off our backing off our double-sided tape. All right, now, I want to remember this is the side I want to use. I don't want it backwards again. So I'm going to put glue around the edge of my designer series paper here so that along the edge here, it'll be nice and stuck down. So just put a nice little thin line of glue right around the edge. Ooh, I've got a clog there. Hold on 1 second, let's see here. These tips sometimes get a little bit clogged, and I've been doing a lot of crafting this afternoon, so I've had my glue going and then I've refilled it a couple of times. All right, well, I thought I got that clog out. Oh, there we go. All right, make sure we have plenty of glue on there. All right, now you only got a 1/4 of an inch border all the way around there, and since you've got your double-sided tape on there, you really only have one shot at getting this right. All right, and we did it. All right, so I got my paper towel here. I'm gonna press down around the edges in case any glue seeps out. Get that wiped up. Okay. All right, let's take the bone folder and really press that down. We want to make sure that glue is really stuck on there. And then double-sided tape, because we don't want any buckling. When we fold this into the box, you don't want it to buckle. All right, so let's set that aside so that can dry a little bit. And then let's get those sides done. So what we're going to do cover the sides, these are the 1.5 by 3.5 pieces of chipboard. And we're just going to use this scrap paper, and I'm using the long scrap paper that was at the top of that. So I'm just going to trim this off right here where we seamed it together. Set that aside just in case I need it. Then I'm going to take my art glitter glue, put a nice coating on the back of the chipboard, and I'm going to place it right up against the edge. The closer to the edge we are, the less trimming we have to do. So this way we only have to trim around three sides of this chipboard. All right, let's get the other one on there. And see, we're not wasting any of that designer series paper that we trimmed off here. All right, use your bone folder, make sure it's really stuck down. All right, and then you just take your finger blade. Now, you're gonna flip this over to cover this. So what I do is I put this at the top and I pull my blade down along the edge. Got a little trim coming off there. Pull it down along the edge, and then I don't want to go too straight. I want to come out just a little bit, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull it down the edge of the other one. I'm cutting the chipboard. Look at me go. And then I don't want to go straight. I'm going to kind of pull it into the center here. All right. And then, yeah, that's plenty of it. Okay. All right. So we've got the one side trimmed. Now we're going to trim off the other side and kind of bring it out there. You want that wide so that you make sure that you have plenty of it to cover that other side. Do the same thing on this one. edge hanging off there. Okay. All right, and then we just take our glue, cover this part of the chipboard. And then just fold it right over. Okay, and then you want to trim your edges again. Go around all 3 of your edges. And don't worry about those edges being raw, because that's what you're going to be gluing down to the sides of the box. That's how you're going to make the sides of your box. All right, and let's do this side. And just fold that over. So these are your sides for your chipboard. You know what? I've got a little bit of paper hanging over here, so I just want to go right across that. Sorry if my head got in that shot there. All right, so now here's your sides of your chipboard. Now what we're going to do is get our box folded down, and then I want to place these inside to make sure that they're not too long, because sometimes they're just a hair too long and you just need to do a little trim, and I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, so we've got the inside liner down there, and I want to see where my folds need to be. Get my box folded up here. And I like to take my bone folder as I'm going into the seam there so that everything's stuck down nice and secure. So as I'm folding it, I'm taking my bone folder and just making sure that those seams are really worked in there, because the last thing you want is the paper to buckle here. Okay. So now you've got all your folds, and just kind of work them just a little bit past where they actually need to be. All right, and just nice and gentle, just give it that little push. Now, like I said, the designer series paper from Stampin' Up! Is so nice. It doesn't, I haven't had any issues with it cracking or anything when I make my boxes. Some of the other papers that I use, the Hot Buy paper from Michaels, the texture is just a little bit different, so sometimes you get a little bit of cracking, and when that happens, you can put some glue on there and get it down. I've actually taken washi tape and gone over it just to cover up the cracking sometimes, so it just all depends on how bad it is. Sometimes you can decorate over it and it doesn't matter. However, the designer series paper from Stampin' Up! Is just such a nice quality. I haven't had any issues with that. So you just want to take all of your folds and kind of just work them a little bit past where you're going to actually need them to be. Do it gently. You don't want to be too forceful with it. You need those fibers to kind of loosen up. Okay, so after you've got your box folded, this is how it's going to come together. Okay, so this is your box. Now, the reason I do this is, or show you this, is because I want to make sure that these sides are going to fit in here nice. So we're going to put glue around here, but before we do that, I want to do a dry fit and just make sure that it's fitting in there really nice. A little bit off the edge here, and all you do for that is you just take your scissors and just kind of eyeball it, and you just want to take a little sliver right off there. See? Little tiny sliver. Oh, where am I going? There we go. All right, let's take the other piece and see. It's probably going to be just about the, yep, exactly the same. So we're just going to take that little sliver right off there. Now your chipboard's easy enough to cut that way when you're just taking the sliver off, but I'm telling you, never try to cut your chipboard for a whole project with scissors. You'll have blisters on your hands. All right, so let's get rid of these little slivers and let's get our sides on here. So we're going to take our art glitter glue and we're just going to run a bead of glue on all 3 of these raw edges. All right, and use plenty of glue. You're gonna have some dripping. Don't forget this dries nice and clear, but you don't want it not sticking. So, all right, now I want it kind of as close to the edge as possible. Oh, got a little on my finger there. Now, this dries pretty quick. It'll set for you fairly quickly. Anything you've got oozing out, just use a paper towel off there. Keep it pinched together because you want it to set, and it'll set fairly quickly for you. All right, so you just need to hold it on there for a couple of minutes. Let it sit and get stuck on there nice and tight. See how nice that'll fit together? All right. So after that's secure enough that it doesn't need your hands pressing on it anymore, you're going to do your other side. All right, so that looks like that's good. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to just run some glue along the raw edges. And again, make sure you use plenty of glue because you don't want it coming undone. All right. I'm going to do the same thing. Get it as close to the edge as possible. And then just use your paper towel to wipe off anything that's oozing out the sides. And then just hold it on there until it's pretty secure. Get another piece of paper towel here. All right, that's pretty secure. So let's set that aside so that can start to dry, and we'll work on these cards. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clear away some of this here. So we're not gonna need our little tool there anymore to pull off any more tape. Let's get rid of our tape. And I'm gonna get a piece of my grid paper from Stampin' Up! Because on these recipe cards that I'm going to make, I want to stamp off some of the ink when we put the little snowman on there. Okay, so we're using the Don't Stop Believing stamp set, and what we're going to do is, since this is a recipe card, one of the little sentiments on here says, sadly, Frosty's first hot cocoa turned out to be his last. And then we've got a melted Frosty over here. So what I did was, I've got my melted Frosty on my my block, and I'm taking Pool Party ink, and I'm going to take the index card part, the white part, the 3 by 4 7/8, and I'm going to ink up my little snowman here. but I don't want it too dark, so I'm gonna stamp off one time, and then I'm gonna take my cardstock and stamp him on there. Now, I didn't do real well on this one, but luckily for me, I know I made one extra one. See here, around the edge of the stamp, I didn't press it down evenly. So I've got that little shadowing. Now, I'm just gonna wipe this off a little bit so that I can do that again and show you the proper way to do it. All right, so it takes a little bit of practice when you're applying the ink to your stamp to not get it on the edges of your stamp. All right, there we go. All right, so see now it's just very light. You can see it on the camera, I think. I don't know, might not be able to. But anyway, if you stamp off one time, you get the dark and then the light. So all of your inks with Stampin' Up, you actually get two colors out of it. You get a dark color and a light color. Dark color, light color. All right, so I've got 12 of these here. So let me get these taken care of. I've got ink on that edge again. Stamp off. Stamp off. Got all these little melted snowmen here on my papers. All right, we're almost finished here. See, I told you, some of the stuff that you watch me do is like watching paint dry. All right, last one. All right, let's close up this ink pad for now. I'm gonna set aside this one that I messed up on because I need that to do the little sentiment for the front. So now all we do is take the white cardstock and put it on the decorative cardstock. All right, to do that, I'm gonna use my art glitter glue, and I'm just gonna put a thin bead around the edge of the white and center that the best I can, and voila, all done. That's all you have to do your little recipe cards. So I'll do one more for you. I won't make you sit here and watch me do all 12. And the reason I'm using the wet glue instead of double-sided tape on this is because I wanted to make sure that I got them centered. And like I said, with the double-sided tape, you do not really get a second chance. With the wet glue, you have a little bit of play, and I'll show you, I'll do one more just to show you what I mean. So with the wet glue, although if you put too much on it, you will get some buckling, but I've done quite a few of these and I haven't had any issue with the buckling. I put the wet glue on it, and because there's only going to be an 1/8 of an inch border around it, I want to make sure that I have enough play. So I get it lined up on my one side here, I hold it down, and I make sure that it lines up. If it doesn't line up, I can move it around just a little bit until I get it lined up. And there you go. So that way you have a nice even border around it. All right, so you do 12 of those, and you can probably fit about 25 of those kinds of cards in here. But some people might want to put little embellishments on it. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make up a bunch of these, and we have a cookie swap every year. And we have a few couples come over and we bring cookies. Well, this year I'm going to do a recipe box for each of them, and then this way I'll have them send me their recipes beforehand, and we'll do the 4 or 5 couples that come. I'll get their recipes and put on one of the recipe cards, and then they'll each have one of these recipe boxes take home with their little box of cookies, and they'll have the recipe for all the cookies they take home. All right, so let's finish up our box. It's pretty dry now. All right, it's all on there nice and secure. And then you'll see your index cards, your recipe cards all fit in there really nice. And yeah, that's 12. Yeah, you could easily get 25 of them in there if you're not going to put any heavy embellishments on there. But some people like to, you know, really decorate up their cards and stuff when they put it in there. But it's a cute way to make sure that you're giving your recipes when you're giving out cookies for the holidays. All right, so let's get this finished up. The next step that we're going to do is we're going to put in the rubber band. These are from Dollar Tree. I got a whole big pack of the rubber bands. You can use elastic. I just thought that these were, you know, nice and simple to match with the different colors and use to do little closings like this. I got these little brads that look like little white buttons. I got these from Michael's, and I just thought this was a cute, different way to close the box. I mean, I've put magnets on a lot of things. You could put Velcro on here. I just thought this was cute. So I'm going to take my ruler and find the center of my box, and I want to go right about halfway down as well. So let's see here. That would be the center. I'm going to take my pokey tool here, my pokey tool. I don't know exactly what it's called. Piercing tool, that's what it is. All right, so I'm going to pierce the center of the box, and I'm going to be careful. I don't want to go through. And I don't know if I've told you guys, but this styrofoam backing that I use here, this was just some packing material, and I put a piece of cardstock on the back, and I use it whenever I'm piercing anything, and it works perfectly. All right, so I've got my hole here in the center of the box, and I'm just going to kind of make it a little bit wider than what the piercing tool is. And then I'm going to, this is the seam of the rubber band I want to put in first, because I don't want that on the outside of the box. We're going to have that on the inside of the box. So I'm just going to take this and kind of just work it into my hole here. It's not very easy, but it's not too difficult. You just have to have patience. Oh, I pulled it out. It's getting in there. The other ones went in much easier. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with this one. Oh, there we go. Okay. I could feel it going through. All right, so you're going to pull it almost all the way through. Be very careful. Now, what I did was I took my bone folder and I stuck through here so that it didn't pull all the way through. Because you're going to need to pull it out through the box, because you need to tie a nice big knot in it so that it doesn't pull back through that hole when you're using it to close. So you put a knot in it there and then let go, pull it back through, and you've got your little closure. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pierce the top here. Let's find the center of the top, and we're going to put our little button in there. Okay, that's right there. Okay. Now this is much easier. Now you don't want to put it in too tight. You're going to put it in and give yourself, you know, maybe a little smidgen, not an 1/8 of an inch, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. Leave it hanging off there, and then just open your brads up there, and then your little rubber band goes around the button, and your box is closed. Nice and cute. Now, if your rubber band's too loose, which this one seems to be, we're gonna put our bone folder back in there. We're gonna pull this just a little bit tighter. Bring that nut through one more time so that it's just a little bit smaller. How that works. Oh, there we go, much better. Okay. All right, and now the last finishing touches for this are the little flat back pearls that we're going to put on the bottom to use as feet. All right, and just put 4 little dots of glue on there. Take our flat back pearls, put them right there on the bottom. All right, now we're going to set that aside and let that dry. Now this last sentiment is, remember I told you that there was a little trick I was going to show you here with the Scotch tape to block out part of your stamp. So on this stamp, let's see here. Here, let me open the ink up and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so on this stamp of the melted snowman, there's a dumped over little cup of hot cocoa. All right, so the sentiment that says that sadly Frosty's first cup of hot cocoa was his last, that's what I want to use on the front of my box. But I want to take that little cup of hot cocoa and put there next to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Scotch tape and I'm going to go around my cup of hot cocoa. So that my rubber stamp doesn't pick up any of my ink. Okay. I'm not going to press it and do it deliberately. I'm going to try not to get any ink on there, but just in case there is, it'll be on the tape. All right, so got the ink on there. And then I'm going to take my tape off. See, there would have been ink on there. So now there's not going to be any ink other than right here where the hot cocoa is. Then we're going to take that, and I'm going to take that little hot cocoa and press that right down there next to my sentiment. See? All right. So then we're going to take the stamp punch, and we're going to cut out our sentiment. Let me close this ink up. I almost stuck my hand right in that. And I have done that. Don't laugh. All right, so let's take our dimensionals so that it's got some character to it. It's not just flat. Peel the backs off there. Now this, I can definitely tell you, is much harder without my nails. All right, so we're going to take this little sentiment and I'm just going to put it right here in the corner. All right. All finished. Well, I hope I've inspired you to make some of your own little recipe boxes. These are great for Secret Santa gifts, anything. It's a wonderful way, like I said, to, where did you get the paper trimmer? Oh, Chris, I got the paper trimmer for Christmas from from our son Austin. I believe he got it at Michael's. You can get it online on Amazon, but I believe he got this one at Michael's. All right, this is our finished project. Thank you for spending your Friday night crafting with me. And if you have any questions or anything, please just leave them below. Go to YouTube and follow Crafts by Kathleen and subscribe. If you hit the bell, then you can be notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you. Have a great night. Bye.